Hey, good day. My name is Ray. I'm here in the UK. I've been away for a while. I've been doing a lot of things, but I just couldn't resist the opportunity to share with you one of my experiences that I had today. Um, I can't believe we're already in June 2014. Time is flying as we go. I mean, it's interesting. I was at a roundtable kind of brainstorming, networking session today, and and everybody was the same. It's like my goodness that time is flying, but as they say, time flies when you're having fun. And the majority of us who came in there, we're having fun. Doesn't mean it's not challenging. Doesn't mean that we don't have some setbacks. We don't have things. I mean, that's life. But effectively, things are fun. But anyway, enough about that. So I found myself in a room filled with about roughly 20 people of mixed interests, goals, dreams, aspirations, experience, accomplishments, achievements. And the objective is to basically come together and share stories, share tips, secrets, advice, ideas, support, feedback, perspectives on basically we are in very different times than some of us maybe grew up with. And, not to sound like some kind of old fart, but effectively, it was a really good opportunity to really connect with people who are like-minded, or maybe not necessarily like-minded, but have, big vision, big dreams, big goals, and big action. And interestingly, I mean, predominantly there was a couple of people from kind of Far Eastern Asia. There were people from Russia. There were people from a couple of people from Eastern Europe, but predominantly continental Europe, and as well as a few from the UK. And including myself, I live in the UK, even though I'm from the USA. But I've been here now since 2000, so a long time. So this is home. And what I really wanted to share here with you is that what I found very interestingly, and I arrived as a guest. I mean, I went in there completely open, no agenda other than more just curiosity, and hoping to share my 2 cents worth of whatever I have to offer. I've been in the online space for a while. I've been an entrepreneur for longer than that, and I've often been doing things that are connected with the notion of what's sustainable. What in fact can add value as opposed to take away from it. My whole notion is where can we be part of the solution as opposed to the problem. And within that, I've worked within training, I've worked within coaching, I've worked within teaching, education, and not only of myself but others, personal development, and as well as actually the nuts and bolts of setting up social enterprises and businesses and online ventures and activities. But there's, enough about me. I mean, there were people in that room who were highly accomplished and highly achieved and highly driven. But what was really interesting is as we went around the room and did our introductions, very brief bio of kind of, where we've been, what we've done, who we are, and what we're doing and where we hope to be going, or in fact some definitely going there, if not already there, I'm not being ageist here, but just interestingly what became very kind of prevalent or very, very kind of clear was really a perspective, a kind of a worldview, if you will. When the question of kind of like, okay, so what in fact are you doing, and what's going on, and what seemed to be going on around the room is there's a particular age group of those who would have been post-university, college, or some kind of training, internship, or in the kind of the pre-career or pre-job with a little bit of experience and really hoping to kind of and looking to take those big dreams and things and really put them into play. And then there are those who are in the thick of it, who are still developing and getting things going, and there are those who have done and maybe not necessarily succeeded and lost a few times, but haven't given up and are come back with all that newfound knowledge from struggle and challenge, but have managed to get ahead of it and make good of it. And then those who are definitely highly successful and highly accomplished. And it was that spiral kind of round table. But what became very clear of the more younger, not all of them, but predominantly most of them, was this notion of the fact is they felt that that the recession was really, really their Achilles heel, that the recession had somehow was kind of dealing them a bit of hardship. That the government and the policies and the system and the economy and so on was really causing things to be really, really difficult, despite the fact that they were driven. Some of them were driven yet had not necessarily made any real headway. You could see they were getting a bit frustrated and jaded. And then there are those who possibly had tried something and had failed and hadn't quite been able to get ahead of that and come out on top of that. So they're quite frustrated and a little bit cynical, to say the least. And as it worked its way around the room, for those who have been more engaged and more successful and more accomplished and more, more empowered, more enabled, I mean, basically, as I said, more successful, the notion of the recession wasn't a part of their discourse. It wasn't even in their language. It wasn't a perspective. It wasn't a viewpoint. When the word recession came up, the look on their face was like, what recession? Now, I'm not belittling the impact and the knock-on effect that has had on the global economy, but it is a mess, and it is a mess within a particular way of looking and doing things, looking at and doing things around the world. And there is a system that is not necessarily working. Now, the interesting thing is, what I found is that we don't have any of those big brains that are really stepping up and kind of saying, "Look, here are other ways to do it." Now, I'm not, I'm not suggesting that the others were any better. I'm just saying, for example, the Adams or the Keynesian economists, or the Engels and the Marxist, or the various bankers of the world and so on, who actually were, who were quite renowned or were part of one's study academically, or are pointed to as the big brains, like the Einsteins of the sciences, or the Teslas and so on, or the Fords of the kind of the industrial age, whether you're for or against. But the thing is that throughout history there are these key figures, be it for the personal development and big movements, social movements, the Martin Luther Kings, the Gandhis, the Mandelas, the Mother Teresas, all these people who were really looking to change the world for, obviously for better in their minds, and it's up to you as to whether you agree. I'm not here to judge it. But there doesn't seem to me, and there's a lot of chit chat, and there's you've got the Sashis, and you've got the Buffetts, and you've got the various people who either have piles of money, who some of them are looking to do good things with. And I'm not suggesting, again, this is not a point of saying that people aren't doing good things with them. But as far as coming up with alternative ways of doing things, we pretty much are in a system that we're trying to fix. We're trying to do better with what we've got. And I'm not suggesting that's bad. I'm just saying what's really interesting is that there's very little bit, except for maybe things like Bitcoin or some kind of trade barter systems or local commerce that have come up with their own things. But on a global scale, despite your politique, whether you're left or right, wing, depending, it doesn't matter, I find that quite interesting, is that these big minds or big brains or big ideas, or people, don't get me wrong, people are doing big things, but possibly more on kind of micro level, which maybe have a macro impact. But in this particular room, on a very micro level, and a very kind of, just as kind of indicative more than anything, not representative, not standing up saying I am representative, not to be generalist, but as a cross-section of a group of people who have literally a perspective of optimism, of possibility, of opportunity, and they have somehow found a way to make it work for them. Some of them had families that they're taking care of, others are pushing them through and training, training up teams of people, and that's their family. There are those who are looking to set up companies that then employ people. There are those who don't want any of that kind of overhead, and are somehow, adding value in other ways, be it their business or be it their training or whatever it is that they happen to share. But to come back to it is, what was really interesting is that for those people who were there, they were there to meet and greet and talk to people. And what became very, very strange, and to me anyway, at first I kept my mouth shut, was there were marketing graduates, there were people who wanted to travel the world, there were people who wanted to go to these various countries, who wanted these opportunities, who wanted to have a decent life. Some wanted to have families, some may never want to have. That wasn't part of their remit or their goal or their aspiration. That wasn't the life they were after. But initially they wanted to set themselves up before they ever got to that next stage in life. And on the flip side, you had these people who are turning around and saying, "I've got a business, and some of my challenges are is that I'm in Russia, for example, and I really struggle to enter the European market. I'm not really sure who to talk to because I don't necessarily have the language, and my English communication is quite challenged. So other languages even just if not more challenged. Or people from the Far East going, well, I have a great network within the Far East, but I'm very, very interested in doing stuff more in the European markets or possibly even into gateway into the States." And what was bizarre is that you had these people who are supposedly very, open-minded, who were discussing about what they were looking for and the challenges that they had, and yet even the objective and the reasons for being in that room to meet and greet people, even then there was these kind of blinkers or these kind of horse blinders or whatever, this mono kind of this kind of myopia, this monovision of so much is caught up in what is the problem at the time or at the moment. And yet, sitting right across from them, or even right next to them, was somebody who potentially, no guarantees again, potentially could fill that gap, solve that problem for them. And, I'm no genius, I'm not a brainiac, I'm certainly not, I'm not super smart, but I'm quite well experienced, I've been around the block a few times, and I've traveled the world, and I've come into contact with people from all walks of life. And it was one of those light bulb moments where I just kind of looked around the room, and that's what hit me. I just thought, wait a minute. And I literally, that was when I introduced, again, I said I was a guest. I shared what my 2 pence worth. And so I jumped in. I threw my hat in the ring, and I said, listen, what I find, and I'm telling them effectively the same thing I just told you. I said, folks, guys, gals, ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is we've everyone's to a degree put what they've wanted to put on the table and kind of not air their dirty laundry, not at all, but to show a little bit of that they've got a cupboard and let's have a look inside. And here's an opportunity to kind of try things on for a size, if you want to use the phrase, but more to try on each other's things and really give it a go. And what was interesting is like there was a young French guy who was very kind of energized, marketing graduate, very well academically trained, but lacking the experience. And in fact, one of his travel destinations on his list of where he would like to go happened to be Russia. And the entrepreneur, the Russian lady on the other side, was voicing that, saying basically, I'm looking for marketing. I struggle with it. It's one of the things that it's not something that I do very much. I kind of run the business. I have the vision, but I need some of these things taken off my plate because it's just too much for me to juggle. She's also got a family, and so but she's obviously doing very well. She flies back and forth to London all the time. But because of the lack of being in the EU, one of the barriers for her entry is all some kinds of mumbo-jumbo. So I said, well, you guys have a potential here to do a JV. Here's somebody who has the skill set that you're looking for, but lacks the experience, and here's an opportunity, and who's really keen on entering into or going to Russia or whatever. So there's an interest there as well as a passion. And here you are doing something that you are passionate about and very successful about, and you need a helping hand in an area that this person has. Why not do a JV, or why not take them on board, and you basically do a swap of sorts? And all of a sudden, it was just like the whole room lit up. And the buzz took off, and everybody started, it was just like, at that point, the mingling began. And it was really amazing to watch, because or more to be a part of, because even some of the people didn't even have basics. They were so kind of caught up on their smartphones and this and that they didn't even have basic business cards, even electronic business cards, some of these people. Even the successful people, because they were so caught up in what they did, being successful, they thought, well, I no longer need those things. And yet the actual thing of what they were there to do was to network. And even they weren't prepared, so to speak. Now, I'm not suggesting that business cards are the answer to all, but the thing is that we meet people all the time. I certainly can't, remember everybody. And then to remember somebody's names of hundreds of people I met in a day, some people are very, very good at it. I'm afraid Forgive me for those if you're one of those people. I am not, and it's not personal. It's just that there's just information overload sometimes. I mean, I get bombarded, and I'm not able to do it. So the reason I come to share this video with you is this opportunity I guess my real point is that it's not just about being prepared. I mean, when they talk about luck, is there really luck? I mean, of course, there's an element of chance and there's an element of, so on. But are you really at the right place at the right time just by chance? Or is it a case of, are you actually prepared? Do you have the wherewithal or your wits about you, or have put in the things in place and ducks in a row that when something comes along or somebody walks into your life or you meet and greet someone, that when you start sharing ideas, I'm not saying that every time you meet somebody you're looking for something. Absolutely not. I say, what can you offer them? Listen to their story. What can I offer you? What can I do to help you? And if I can't, who do I know who can? To me, that's positive networking. If we go into things looking at what can I get from you? What can I do? That is the wrong end of the spectrum to go into, because most likely people just feel like I'm being got at, as opposed to, oh wow, somebody's here to help me. It takes the heat off me. And for the whole point is that if you have your vision and you know what it is, and it's in line with your sense of purpose, and you have that in line, and you have a pretty good idea. I'm not suggesting it has to be rigid and firm, because the world is forever changing. You need to be flexible. But if you have a level of commitment that you are definitely bound and determined, and you have that level of conviction, the chances are that there's not a whole lot that's going to get in your way. I'm not suggesting it won't be challenging. I've had challenges, and in fact I have been knocked off track, but I learned from them. The whole adage of fall down 5, get up 6. It ain't always easy. I mean, I'm sorry, but it isn't. I mean, for those of you who want an easy ride, it isn't that. And I'm not suggesting doom and gloom, but a bit of hard graft at work and so on is necessary. But if you're passionate about it, it is no longer that 4-letter word, work. Okay? It's no longer that. So effectively, my point here is that you never know when that moment is going to arrive. On the face of it, it seems like an obvious that it would arrive right then. I give you an example. One of the ladies in there, she was straight out of uni. She very, very accomplished in the sense of, as in put in time and got accolades of restorative art. Okay, so she's obviously in a very niche market, and is finding it quite challenging to get in if it's not being with setting up her own business, working with another business, working with collectors, working with auction houses, or even going so far as to go to museums, though she's a little bit more enterprising than that. But she obviously has a skill set that is very, very fine-tuned to a particular area. Now, I happen to be in that room. My immediate neighbor, that is what she does. She gets commissioned work for collectors who have spent high-end value money or have things going, and they need them restored. And she has a few people in her team, and she has a very, very active and up-and-running business that affords her the opportunity that she goes horseback riding in the middle of the week, in the middle of the day. Now, not everybody can say that. Most people are stuck in a 9-to-5 grind. So from her perspective, she's extremely successful. Not only paying the bills, it takes quite a bit to have a horse, but she's able to break away because she's got things running. Now, what is the probability, if not like the lottery, that this person and me are going to be in the same room at the same time talking about what she was looking for a situation, and I happen to know someone? I mean, if that's not the tipping point, if that's not just, being at the right place at the right time, by chance, possibly. Now, from my perspective, it didn't do so much to really change my life. But what it did do is it reaffirmed or reinforced my belief and the whole notion of basically being well prepared or adept or aware and self-aware and quick thinking, that when you're in a social environment, whether or not I'm not always looking for myself. All I did was I was an introducer. I just introduced a couple people about a certain idea that they shared, that then they can run off and do all whatever with. Because effectively, I believe what goes round does come round. So my key point is that you never know when that conversation is going to be right there in front of you. And if we're not aware, we're not looking, we're not thinking, they will pass you by. And there are plenty of other people out there who might look around the corner and go, thank you very much, I'll have that conversation for you if you're not going to have it. So it's not a case that everything is being opportunistic, but it is a case of engaging in with what you're good at, adding value where you can, being the best that you can be, and being open to the possibilities, not so rigidly bound and constrained to things that you have maybe no control over initially, other than the fact is you have control over your positioning and what you do with it. And it was just one of those light bulb moments where I just happened to decide to go, kind of on a whim, and I found it, not only was it entertaining, I met some incredible people. There's a couple of people in there that we were actually talking a little bit about, strategizing about how to do some things online. I'm not so sure if there's a JV in that, but if anything, I'm forever learning, and I'm hearing from people who are doing things in a particular different way. It might actually free things up on some levels for me on that front. Just information, sharing knowledge, and if anything, rubbing shoulders with some really cool people doing some really cool things. So my share to you here, to be not so long-winded, so forgive me for that, but it really, really was a good experience. I had a great day, and then of course to top it off, I came outside, something that doesn't happen very often, and the sun was shining. So that made my day even brighter, certainly warmed me up a bit, so I was not only warmed on the inside, I was now basking in the sun and warmed up on the outside. So if this type of thing is, something that kind of gets the juices flowing and inspires you to go out there and grab yours and get yours, please share. I mean, I love hearing about where other people have managed to make things happen the way they've wanted to have them happen, and not always doing it according to how somebody else is telling them how to do it, though maybe they have a mentor or coach who are guiding them and nudging them, but ultimately you have to do for what is good for you. So my battery is now telling me I got to split, because otherwise I'm going to lose it all. And once again, connect with me, like me, comment on what you have to hear, share, contact me, and reach out. And you know what? Let's change the world for a better place, because you know what? It can be a down and crazy and sad and depressing and pessimistic place if that's the path and view you choose to take. Or it can be, the world can be as dynamic and challenging, whatever. It can be a very vibrant, vital, happy, positive, and generous, and an incredible place to live. The choice is yours, and I leave that to you. And on that note, make it a great day, make it a great week, and in fact, even better, make it a great year, the rest of 2014. Like I say, we're in June all of a sudden. I can't believe it. We're halfway through the year practically. So you've got a rest of the half a year to nail it for 2014, to really make it the best year you ever had, to then carry on and make it a great life. So, thank you for taking the time out to listen to this. If you haven't tuned out already, okay, fine. But if you happen to be with me still, connect. There's some great stuff that I'm very happy to share with openly and freely. I've got a few bits and bobs of materials that I really I think are valuable for you guys and for anybody else out there, because they definitely were valuable for me. So on that note, see you on the next one. Ciao.